Good morning, everyone. Hope your day is going well. It's a little bit rainy today for here in Gothenburg, but we shall persevere because today we are going to talk about platform as a service, and I'll share a few of my experiences working with the different providers. And that's about it, really. Let's get into it. So, first and foremost, we need to define some things. To me, there are three right now distinct categories of platform service providers, at least the ones that I've been using. You have the specific application development providers who have basically optimized their platform for helping to solve a very specific type of use case. For me, that is something like Firebase, for example. They have a very nice system for delivering things such as real-time databases. They're extremely good at, they have a very nice integration towards mobile and web and so forth. They have a very, very specific thing that they're helping you with. And then you have something like Heroku, for example. Basically, they are going to provide you with more traditional services, such as you would find in a company that has a web presence. It's the one that I suppose that has been the most common. It used to, they can provide you with hosting services and basically just run your application for you. That's like the second level of platforms, basically platform service providers. And then you have things such as Azure, Amazon, and Google Cloud, where these are industry level service providers. What do I mean by that? I mean that they are the top in terms of service providers or platform as a service providers in the IT world. These are the companies who run the largest applications in the world in general. Now, I have actually worked with, to varying degrees, of course, with all of these. And so I'll share some thoughts on each one and kind of see if I can provide you with a bit of an insight to what I think at least are what's good and bad, and when to pick one over the other. So let's start with Firebase. So Firebase is an extremely useful platform and it has a holistic name called serverless. And serverless is the idea basically that instead of you running your own infrastructure, your own database, and basically having different containers, so as I was saying, which is what you do with Heroku, where you have a more traditional application approach where you have your own code base, you deploy it to their environments, and they run it for you, but you are in charge of everything basically around your application. Instead of having that approach, you deploy functions, single functions to the cloud, and Firebase will run your functions. And what's powerful about this is that you don't have to worry about setting up scaling, you don't have to think about infrastructure, you don't have to do anything. You really only have to write logic. That's it. And everything else is taken care for you. And I can only say that I use Firebase for my own startup. It's very effective in terms of speed. I would say that out of these three that I was telling you about, this is probably the fastest for a beginner or to get started with. Firebase has a very nice interface. It's very easy to get started, and the best part is the pricing. So serverless will charge you per request, and you have basically a base free tier, which means that if you're just trying to prototype something up, this is actually it's a perfect fit for you, because it's going to let you do that for free. And it's going to stay free for a very long time. There's no time period or anything like that. It's going to be free just as long as you don't do too many requests, which usually isn't the case. I mean, I've been running my thing on the free tier for quite a while now, and I have roughly 40 test users who continues to use it. I'm getting close to the threshold, I'm going to admit, but you can actually scale Firebase up so that you can handle more requests. But there's always a but, right? And the issue with something like Firebase is that it's a specific it's solving a very specific problem. And the biggest limitation with Firebase that I have found personally in my own work is the database. So the database is designed to be a real-time deal so that you can actually do something like a live chat system, something like that. But I don't need that. I basically need a traditional database for some of the stuff that I'm doing. Unfortunately, Firebase can't really help me with that. I've had to shape my data in the database layer so that it falls in accordance with what Firebase is optimized for, and that's a little bit of a hassle. So I know for a fact that if my company ever matures to the next step, I'm gonna have to migrate from Firebase because it doesn't have, powerful database systems. So that's not a bad thing. So I would say start with Firebase if you don't have the need that I'm going to talk about next. Firebase is a great way to get started for a prototype or something like that. Awesome. But when you go up in scale, you're gonna have to look at something else, I think. Amazon would be a very good choice for serverless. Amazon doesn't have this limitation. They also have serverless, so you can just deploy these functions. And I would say that it's probably, if you want to run serverless as a business, then I would probably go with Amazon's API gateway and their Lambda functions. But let's talk about Heroku. So I run a few small applications on Heroku. They're all in Docker containers virtually, and my experience has been very good. It's very easy to deploy things. You can set up webhooks so that whenever you push a new update, they automatically go to Heroku. You can have custom domain names and so forth. And overall, I have to say it's a really nice experience. The one thing I can tell you about this level of application development is that I'm pretty sure that you can run Heroku for any mid-sized application or company for that matter. It's perfectly suited for somebody who has, let's say that you have as I was saying, maybe you don't want to run serverless. Maybe you have a need to actually control your own application code, because there is a benefit to having, control of your own code. If everything is in Docker or something of that nature, you can move things between different providers very effectively. And that can be very useful. That's not so easy if you do serverless. However, I would say that if you have a free tier on Heroku as well. I mean, I'm running everything on a free box. The problem with running it on a free tier is that there are limitations with that. You only have, as you can expect, you only have a certain amount of processing power, and they actually sleep your container. So what that basically means is that if nobody's contacting your system for half an hour, they sleep that box, and when somebody does the initial request, it's going to take a while for it to start up again. Now, the pricing ranges aren't massive. Like, it's not that it's costing you a lot, but if you're starting out with something, I think that free is a very nice thing. So what do I like? For me, Heroku would be a very nice, either big, as I said, if you don't like serverless, this would be a really, really good start for you, and it would be a great thing that can scale up to a certain point, and that's what we're going to talk about next. To me, it's like both Firebase and Heroku are different flavors of the low-level application platform providers, and then you have Amazon, Azure, and Google Cloud, which is where these are giants. These are the three major players when it comes to serving platforms. I can tell you for a fact that I was working at Ticketmaster, and that was all Amazon. The company I'm working for now, it has several millions of users every month, and these are the systems that run all of this. Amazon is probably the oldest one around. They are the most established one of them all. And if we compare these, as far as I know right now, Azure Cloud, which is Microsoft's platform, is the cheapest in terms of cost and so forth, and Google being the most expensive. And the thing is that you really only need these types of services, in my opinion, if your company is established. Do you have more than 1,000 users? If you do, then you should start considering these things, because they give you access to all kinds of databases, load balancing, and you have logging. They have all these support systems. I mean, these platforms are designed to run entire industries or entire businesses. And if something at the scale of Ticketmaster, for example, is using something like this, you can understand how massive it is. And basically, when you compare these, in my personal opinion, my personal favorite is Google Cloud, and it's only really because it uses Docker and Kubernetes, which is of course the case for Amazon as well. You can use that as well, but the interfaces are a little bit, to me, a little bit nicer, and there's nothing wrong with Amazon at all. I just as a user of these systems, I prefer Google Cloud. But I would say that that comes, as I said, it's the most expensive one as well. So maybe not the best fit in the world for somebody who's short on money. And Azure Cloud being the cheapest one. And basically, it doesn't really matter so much which one of these three you go with. They provide the same type of benefits. So it's a matter of choice, really. You have to ask yourself what your use case is. If you're looking for the most mature one of them, with the most amount of experience, like the most stable one, it would be Amazon. They are by far the ones have been doing this the longest. Well, longest is a strong word, but they are the most established ones, and they will give you everything you need. And then you have the cheapest one, which would be Microsoft. And Google Cloud Platform, well, it's Google basically, and they're not, like, they have a lot of things, like there are a few services that aren't as well developed, but Google are really good at what they do. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to catch up very soon. So those are basically my tips. If you have you're just starting out, prototyping something, you're not sure where you're heading with it, start with Firebase or something like that, or possibly Heroku. And when you get up to a mid-sized type of company where you have maybe a few hundred users, you can still stay at that level. When you hit 1,000 or more users, start thinking about transitioning into something like Amazon, Google Cloud, Azure, and so forth. And when you're picking between these, I would say that you have to consider a few things, because my needs are very different from yours, and they can all do the same thing. It's more about, in my opinion, the discussion about cloud providers is very based around what business you have. Like, what are your needs? Are you short on money? Do they have, you can try them out. All of them have a free tier you can play around with, because they all give you virtually the same thing. So hopefully this was useful to you, and yeah, have a great day.